Aspects of Occultism by Dion. Narrated by Matthew Schmitz. 6. Some helps to meditation. Meditation may be defined as the practice of concentrated and directed thinking designed to build up an attitude of the mind. It is an exceedingly important part of the discipline that awakens the mind to higher consciousness. Without the regular practice of meditation according to a sound technique, any real achievement is impossible. There are innumerable books upon the subject from many different points of view. Each of these viewpoints has its value, and we shall incline to one or another according to the bias of our characters and the needs of our lives. Meditation may be considered from 4 different standpoints. Firstly, that of the development of the personality as such, with a view to a happier and more successful life and the enhancement of the capacities. Secondly, from what may be termed generically the New Thought standpoint, wherein the aim is, broadly speaking, to bring the soul into harmony with God. Thirdly, from the occult or yoga standpoint. And fourthly, from the mystical standpoint, whether Christian or non-Christian, wherein the aim is to enable the soul to make the unreserved dedication and unite itself to the Godhead. It is my belief that the concentration upon any one of these methods, to the exclusion of all others, even though this is strenuously recommended by the exponents of the different systems, does not yield the best results in human life values. It is quite true that the greatest efficiency in the system chosen is gained by such concentration, but the sense of proportion is lost and the development is one-sided. Consciousness has more than one level, and the development of all the levels in harmonious proportion is needed for the perfection of humanity. None of these systems, left to itself, does this. Therefore, none of these systems contains the complete curriculum of the perfection of humanity. What shall it profit a man if he gain the whole world and lose his own soul? And is he much better off if he open up the higher aspects of mystical consciousness and lose his physical health, or achieve the greater power of yoga and sacrifice his mental balance? I would counsel everyone who takes up the intensive practice of meditation to devise for themselves a discipline which shall include all 4 aspects, so that the tremendous powers awakened by yoga methods may be disciplined and dedicated by the mystical contacts, and the harmonizing and soothing influence of the New Thought reiterated autosuggestions may inspire and stabilize the mind, and the common sense dicta of plain character building and faculty development may help to maintain a sense of just proportion. Meditation is by no means a thing of easy achievement. It is the calisthenics of the soul and leads on to its acrobatics and athletics. When we first embark upon its practices, we shall find that when the first enthusiasm wanes, the mind itself will resist the practices as if with a deliberately willed antagonism. This corresponds to the stiffness of the muscles of an athlete who is out of condition. We all know, however, that the best way to get rid of that painful stiffness is to move the muscles until they warm up and become limber. Such stiffness is best worked off. To try and wrest it off is worse than useless. So it is with the mind. We must summon up all our resources of will and perseverance to get through the initial resistance of the mind. Once this has been successfully accomplished, and the habit of meditation established, the very resistant inertia of the mind that has made the practice of a discipline so difficult will help to maintain it when once the habit has been acquired. We shall be as uneasy and discomforted if we miss our meditation time as if we miss a meal. A regular meditation period with which nothing is allowed to interfere is absolutely essential. A good time is immediately after dressing and before breakfast. The absence of food in the stomach makes meditation much easier, and the activity of dressing ensures that we are sufficiently wide awake not to drift off into dreamland instead of following a train of thought with concentration. For many people, too, the early morning, before the demands of the day take hold upon them, is the only time they can with surety call their own. The mind, fresh from sleep and undistracted, is at its best for the contemplation of inner things. There is no better investment we can make towards spiritual or mental progress than this half hour of sacrificed sleep. It is not a good plan to practice meditation lying in bed before rising, for only a superhuman will can keep us awake under such circumstances, and we shall, in all probability, deceive ourselves as to the extent to which we are awake, But it is a very good plan to make a habit of turning the thoughts to invocation of the Masters for a few moments immediately on awakening, while consciousness is still on the frontiers of sleep. Such a practice very speedily becomes habitual, and we find that we regularly awaken from sleep to find ourselves subconsciously invoking the Masters. Such thought, which often escapes from the limitation of waking consciousness, is very potent. It is also an excellent plan to go to sleep in contemplation, directing the mind towards some idea or ideal and allowing the thoughts to circle gently round it until the mind drifts out on the tide of sleep. Concentration should not be attempted. Intruding thoughts should merely be inhibited and the mind encouraged to brood quietly and almost at random on the chosen idea. After a few nights' practice, it will be found that almost before the thoughts are called home and directed to the chosen idea, we have sunk into the most peaceful and refreshing sleep imaginable. And even if sleep does not immediately supervene, and we lie awake for a time, as often occurs with highly strung people, we are nevertheless resting, for the mind is at peace and at low tension, and is not threshing itself into pieces with the bugaboos of anxiety and over-vivid imagination. There is no better way of going to sleep than in tranquil contemplation of a spiritual ideal, nor is there any surer way of bringing it to birth in our nature. This should be our routine procedure, night by night, for it is healthful and helpful. It should not be our constant practice to attempt occult feats in sleep, such as telepathy, going up to the halls of initiation, or projecting the astral body. If we do these things too frequently, disturbance of the function of sleep is apt to ensue. These are matters for the trained initiate, who is properly equipped with the necessary words of power, symbols, and technique. These things cannot be learnt from books and should never be attempted except under the proper conditions, and even among initiated adepts, it is usual to observe times and seasons in these things and not to practice them unceasingly. Another useful practice is that of the midday salutation, in which the thoughts are raised to the God of nature at high noon, the symbol employed being the sun in mid-heaven. This practice soon attunes us to the spiritual essence of nature and has some very important effects upon consciousness. It is vitalizing and joy-bringing and harmonizes the whole being, correlating its different aspects, mental, emotional, instinctive, and spiritual, like the notes in a chord. It is very advantageous, if it can be managed, always to meditate in the same place. But even if we cannot manage always to do our meditation at the identical spot, we can have some symbol which we take out from its covers and set up as the focus of our meditation. We should always have such a meditation symbol. It is the greatest possible help. The student who tries to acquire the habit of meditation without recourse to such extraneous aids is giving himself much unnecessary trouble. Until use is made of such a symbol, its effect will not be believed. Moreover, the more it is used, the more potent it grows, for thought forms are building up around it with every meditation that is performed. It is essential for a symbol to develop its full potency that it should always be kept reverently covered up when not in use, and that we should be extremely discreet as to whom we allow even to look upon it, and no one, save the owner, should ever lay a finger upon it, and even he should take it in his hands with reverence, saluting it with the appropriate sign, either by crossing himself if the Christian is symbol, or with the sign of his grade, if he be an initiate. By these precautions, the magnetism which the symbol acquires is prevented from dispersing, and so develops with every meditation performed. For not only is the chosen symbol connected by every law of mental association with the ideal of meditation, but an actual atmosphere is built up around it, and this atmosphere is even more than a thought form. It is an actual magnetic aura, and its influence is according to its nature. Its inestimable value lies in its power to recall the wandering thoughts and tune them to the keynote with which it is imbued. The meditations we have performed in its presence during periods of spiritual insight act as mentors during periods of spiritual dryness. It is a storage battery of spiritual force, and like a similar battery on a car, provides the spark that enables the engine to make a start. The simplest form of symbol for use under unfavorable conditions, such as when traveling or where privacy is lacking, is a suitable picture or postcard of some work of art expressive of the aspiration of the soul, or the card may be a plain one of similar size, on which such symbols are known to the student may be drawn. Little traveling photograph frames of leather or paper cloth, with a piece of talc in place of glass as protection to the picture, and folding flat like a pocketbook, make an excellent little shrine case. It is a good plan to make an envelope of black silk into which it can be fitted, as this helps to preserve the little shrine from psychic contamination and physical wear and tear. Where conditions are more favorable, a more elaborate shrine can be constructed, and the most suitable thing for the purpose is a small medicine cupboard that can be fastened to the wall at a convenient height for contemplation. The door of this can be shut when not in use, and when opened out, reveals the interior with its symbolic decoration and objects hallowed by their association with the prayer and aspiration of the soul. To keep a perpetual light burning before this little shrine costs from 3 to 4 shillings a week, because only the purest oil is any use for the purpose. Any other kind cakes upon the floating wick and chokes the flame. The proper kind of oil, called sanctuary oil, is sold by any shop that specializes in church furniture or Catholic books and pictures. There too can be obtained the wicks that are used to float on the oil. Any small glass receptacle will do to hold the oil, but these shops also sell the proper sanctuary lamps, which vary from a few pence to beautiful examples of the silversmith's art, costing many pounds. They can be chosen either to stand like a vase or hang on chains from a bracket arm. Even if it is not feasible to keep a perpetual light burning before the shrine, it is helpful to have a little lamp to light when meditation is in progress. Incense also is helpful to the making of an atmosphere which aids concentration. It can be bought either in long joss sticks from any shop that goes in for oriental goods, or in cones from a chemist. A little experimenting will prove which kinds are suitable and which are not. There is an elaborate science of aromatics in relation to tastes of consciousness, but we cannot enter upon it here. For all practical purposes, any sweet-smelling substance, even if it be only smoldering pine cones or lavender stalks, which serves to change the physical atmosphere of a room from that which we are habituated, will be of assistance in enabling the mind to shift its level from the outer to the inner world. The ideal incense to use is, of course, that which is sold for use in ritualistic churches, and which is specially compounded of fragrant gums. The drawback to its use for daily meditation is the difficulty of its manipulation, for it has to be burnt upon smoldering charcoal, and the whole affair takes some time to get going, and unless burnt in a swinging censer, goes out capriciously. There is one thing, however, that can be maintained before even the simplest shrine, or where the tendency of incense to advertise itself all over the house renders its employment inadvisable, and that is the little vase of flowers. There should be something in every shrine that demands daily attention, whether it be the little guarded flame or the little floral offering. There should be some small sacrifice offered daily to keep the spirit of the shrine alive. A meditation robe is also a great help. It is best formed of thin black silk, or, failing that, of some thin cotton stuff, such as mercerized lawn, and should be voluminous enough to swathe the entire figure in ample draperies, including long loose leaves to fall over the hands and a monk's cowl to pull over the head. When not in use, it should go back into a black silk case and be put away apart from the ordinary clothes. The whole idea underlying the material precautions taken to protect sacred things from profanation or demagnetization, which is the same thing, is based upon the analogy of electricity. The subtle force which is woven into intangible forms by the power of the mind, and which is the link between mind and matter, is electromagnetic in nature, and if we work by electrical analogies when dealing with its subtle manifestations, we shall not go far wrong. The most effective material for insulation is black silk. All this paraphernalia may seem strange to anyone accustomed to the simplicities of Protestant prayer, but if experimented with, its efficacy will soon be realized. We are not under any delusion that it has any effect upon the disposition of God to incline him favorably towards the user, nor upon spiritual forces to cause them to flow in fanciful channels, but it has a very marked effect upon the consciousness of those who employ it, and it is for this reason that we recommend its use to those commencing upon the practice of meditation. The experienced meditator may be independent of all such devices, but the beginner, in what is actually an art of no small difficulty, will find them of great assistance.